I've experienced some stigma and discrimination a few times in different ways and with different outcomes, I guess. When I was first in hospital, I was put in a private ward, which was nice, and a lot of other people in the early days, particularly with Hep C, were put in private wards. But I didn't realise that it was a sort of an isolation thing. I was being put in there for no good reason, really, which is stigma and discrimination, but I quite enjoyed it. And other people who knew at the time, in fact, that they were being discriminated against because they were nurses, they quite enjoyed the private wards too. But it is still a form. I've been labelled as someone who's Hep C, coming in with a cut finger into casualty, into emergency in hospital. So ask you about your history and then put a sticker on your file. Not that it makes any difference. They should be taking precautions.
I was in hospital and this nurse started to take blood without any gloves on. So I had to disclose, I've got Hep C. And it was almost like it was my fault that she didn't put the gloves on. That's how she made me feel.
I didn't like the time when one particular doctor was shouting out in her surgery that I had Hep C. And I just went, that is no confidentiality there. And it was very powerless. I felt very demeaned and terrible. I know what it's like. Yeah, I felt worse than worse. I wanted to dig a hole and disappear.
Probably one of the worst feelings of discrimination I copped was I was 6 months into treatment and I was having teeth problems. I went to a dentist and it was actually disclosed on the referral, and he sat me in the chair, told me to open my mouth. He wouldn't actually touch anything. He just looked and said, "So you have hepatitis C?" And I said, yeah, yes and no. I'm being treated for it and I'm clear. And he said, "Well, I'm not touching you till you've had x-rays and I'd like to see that blood test." And I never went back. I don't think I should have had to prove to him or anybody else by a blood test. It was none of his business. I was there to have my teeth fixed.
There really is a lot of stigma around Hep C, and I suppose on some levels health workers have to deal with stigma about a lot of things, but this is very specific and it's very related to drug use.
The few times that I went to seek information about treatment from liver clinics, the first question that I was ever asked was, "Are you or have you been an intravenous drug user?" That is off-putting and upsetting, whether you are or you aren't. And if they'd asked, "How do you think you contracted it?" or "Have you ever had blood products," sort of reverse it. Take the drug addict or the drug use stigma away until later, because you're put off with that first question that I just wanted to clam up and I didn't want to answer any more questions after that. And a lot of my clients have told me the same thing, that they feel they're branded. As soon as they're asked that question and answer it honestly, they're just branded.
I wasn't a stereotype junkie, I was middle management, I worked, I had a family, and, I could have caught that from anywhere, I've got tattoos, I've had them since I was 16, so I've had piercings, I had a blood transfusion when I was 9. So there's all those other things that I could have gotten hepatitis. But people just assume that you're a junkie, and what junkies do is they got that stigma of coming through your house or robbing you. So, I think that's quite sad, really.
I think, if you like, my favourite instance of discrimination was when I went to see a dermatologist for a biopsy on some lumps that I had as a result of treatment. And he said to me, "How did you get Hep C?" And being who I am, I said, "Why do you want to know?" Non-confrontational, I felt, in the way I said it. And he said, "Oh, to keep myself safe." Which doesn't matter how you got it. It's not keeping himself safe by knowing how I got it at all. Even whether or not I have Hep C isn't keeping the doctors safe, because they should be practising standard procedures no matter what.
I think more and more as we do these talks and get all the information out there with the healthcare workers, I actually believe today that it has changed. There's still a lot of discrimination, but it has changed.
The way I tried to deal with it was Well, people are ignorant of what it is, and at the time I tried to feel that, all right, they're discriminating and they're stigmatising because they haven't got enough information, and that's what I'm passionate about now is getting the right information to the right people, and hopefully changing some attitudes out there about the stigma.